Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're jumping way back in time, to the very cradle of civilization, Mesopotamia, to tackle a huge question.
Just imagine it. For the people of ancient Mesopotamia, the world was a really tough, unpredictable place. The rivers that gave them life, the Tigris and Euphrates, could also just wipe them out with a flood. Their whole world felt like it was at the mercy of these giant, uncontrollable forces. So how on earth did they explain it all?
Well, their answer was basically a kind of divine government. They believed the universe wasn't empty or random at all. Instead, it was run by this huge family of over 3,000 gods and goddesses, a massive pantheon where every single deity had a specific job, controlling everything from the flow of water to the fire in a blacksmith's forge.
And this gets to a really core idea that shaped their entire world. Every single city was seen as the literal property of a specific god. So your king? He wasn't the owner. He was more like the property manager, just taking care of the place for the real boss, the city's divine landlord. You can see how this just totally fuses religion and politics, right? They're one and the same. But here's the thing. These gods, they weren't these far-off, perfect, abstract beings. Not at all. They were basically a divine mirror of us. They got angry, they got jealous, they fell in love, they had bitter rivalries and fought with each other. It's like, by making the gods act like us, with motivations we could actually understand, they made a chaotic universe feel a little less random. All right, so if the whole universe is run like some kind of cosmic company, who's calling the shots? Let's meet the divine executives, the key players at the top of the food chain. Way up at the very top, you've got Anu, the Sky Father. You can think of him as the chairman of the board. He's got all the power. Technically, he holds the ultimate authority, but he's not really getting his hands dirty in the day-to-day operations. His power is the foundation for everything, but he delegates the real chaos to others. Now, the guy really running the show, the divine CEO, if you will, was Enlil. He was the god of wind, air, and storms, and he was the one who actually carried out all the decisions. This made him both a creator and a destroyer. He could send the rains that made your crops grow, or he could send a hurricane that would just wipe you off the map. You really wanted to stay on his good side. And then we have Enki, who's kind of like the divine head of research and development. He's the god of wisdom, magic, and fresh water. He was the great innovator, the problem solver. And what's really interesting is that while Enlil might be the one to send a destructive flood, Enki was often the one who'd cleverly find a way to warn humans and help them survive. He was a trickster and often a friend to mankind. And just to give you a sense of how complex and frankly how human these gods were, let's talk about Inanna, or Ishtar. She was the goddess of love, beauty, and sex, but also the goddess of war and conflict. An incredible paradox, right? But it tells you they understood something really deep, that the powerful passions that drive creation and love are the very same ones that can fuel destruction and war.
Okay, so we've met the management team running this cosmic corporation, but where did it all come from? What's the origin story? And maybe more importantly, where do we, humanity, fit into this whole grand design?
Their big creation epic, the Enuma Elish, it doesn't start with light and order. Nope, it starts with primordial, watery chaos. And the hero of the story is the god Marduk, who wages this epic battle against Tiamat, the monster of chaos. After he defeats her, he splits her body in two and uses it to create the heavens and the earth, finally bringing order to the universe. So after all that cosmic drama, you've got to be asking, where do people fit into this? And the answer is, well, it's pretty blunt. Humans were created from the blood of a rebellious, defeated God. And our purpose? Our purpose was crystal clear. We were created to be the cosmic workforce. Our job was simple: serve the gods. To feed them, clothe them, build their homes, and do all the hard labor so they could just kick back and relax. This whole idea of being servants to the gods, this servant ethos, it wasn't just a story, it shaped every single part of their lives. So what did that actually feel like, day to day, living as a servant to these powerful, emotional, and frankly, pretty demanding gods? Right in the middle of every city, you'd see this massive structure, the ziggurat, towering over everything. This was way more than just a temple. It was a man-made mountain, a literal staircase to the heavens. And it was considered the actual earthly home for the city's patron god. It was the physical connection point between our world and theirs. And inside that temple, the priests were busy. Their whole life was a non-stop routine of serving a cult statue, which they believed the god could literally inhabit. They would wake the statue up, they'd wash it,
They'd dress it in fine clothes, and they'd feed it these elaborate meals through animal sacrifice. The entire city's economy was built around keeping the local god happy.
Okay, but with all these powerful emotional gods, how could you possibly know what they wanted? How do you stay out of trouble? Well, you had to look for signs. The most important method was called extispecie. That's examining the liver of a sacrificed animal for messages from the gods. People also relied on magic, wearing protective amulets and chanting incantations to ward off the thousands of demons they believed were all around them.
So after a whole life spent serving the gods, what was the big reward? Well, there wasn't one. The Mesopotamian afterlife, called Kur, was this incredibly bleak, gloomy underworld. It was just a dark, dusty place where every single soul, whether you were a king or a commoner, was doomed to the same miserable fate. No heaven, no hell, no rewards, no punishments, just an eternity of shadow and dust. And this place, Kur, it was so terrifying that not even the gods were totally safe from it. There's this incredible myth about the goddess Inanna's journey into the underworld. As she passes through the 7 gates, she's stripped of all her power and ultimately killed. And the only way she can get out is if someone takes her place. It's this powerful story that they use to explain the changing seasons: life, death, and rebirth.
So, with this really grim outlook on death, it's no surprise that the most famous story to ever come out of Mesopotamia is about one hero who dared to try and beat it.
You've probably heard of it, the Epic of Gilgamesh. It's one of the first great stories ever written down. The hero, Gilgamesh, is this powerful king, part god and part human. And when his best friend, Enkidu, dies, Gilgamesh is just wrecked by grief. And for the very first time, he feels this raw, profound terror of his own death.
And that terror sends him on this epic quest for eternal life. He travels to the ends of the earth to find the one man who is ever granted immortality, Utnapishtim. And this man tells him the story of a great flood sent by the angry god Enlil to destroy humanity, and how he only survived because the clever god Enki secretly warned him to build a boat. Sound familiar?
But after everything he goes through, all the trials, all the suffering, Gilgamesh fails. He can't get eternal life. The lesson of his incredible journey is a tough one. Immortality is for the gods and for the gods alone. Death is the one fate that every human being has to accept. And so, through their greatest hero, the Mesopotamians land on this huge, timeless question that we're all still grappling with today. If death is unavoidable and the afterlife is just a dusty shadow, then what's the point? How do we find meaning in the short time we have? Gilgamesh found his answer by coming home and appreciating the great city walls he had built, a legacy that would outlive him. And that question, what legacy do we leave behind, is one we're all still trying to answer.